Hey, we're going to World War II, and then we're going snowboarding in this episode.
Right.
Today on the show, we're taking a look at Medal of Honor Rising Sun, Call of Duty for the PC, Secret Weapons over Normandy, and in Versus, we look at two snowboarding games, 1080 Avalanche and AMP2. First up, we're going to take a look at Medal of Honor Rising Sun. It's from Electronic Arts for the PlayStation 2, the Xbox, and the GameCube. And what'd you think of this one?
Well, I gotta tell you, Medal of Honor Rising Sun was one of my most anticipated games, and this game did not disappoint. The emotion that you go through in this game completely just brings you there, and you feel for all these soldiers. The opening scene starts in Pearl Harbor,
right?
And the sound is some of the best sound design I've ever heard in any video game.
I would agree with you. The presentation of Rising Sun is outstanding. It's larger than life moments.
Absolutely.
Awesome to play these kinds of moments in a video game.
Completely fun.
But you also talked about emotion, and I want to convey some of the emotions that I felt while playing this game.
Oh God.
Mostly, I felt frustration. It didn't live up to the hype that the game itself creates and engenders as you're playing through it. You're shooting at enemies, and sometimes you'll shoot them right in the chest or the neck or something, and they'll just go, and then they'll pick up and start shooting again, or you'll shoot them in the foot and they'll bounce around like idiots. It drove me crazy.
I find that on every single game. I found the same thing in Call of Duty.
You also don't want to have controls like you have in this game, which are
controls.
very touchy.
The best first-person controls I have played on the PlayStation 2 and consoles.
Right.
Just as good, if not better, than Halo.
Oh my God.
I'll tell you that. That's what I'm
blasphemy.
saying.
There are some great moments from really, really beautiful cinematic moments in the thing, but the graphics overall are a little disappointing.
You are insane.
I thought that some of the environments looked very blocky and chunky.
Way.
I thought that the vehicles,
You're playing the wrong game.
No, listen, I thought all of the lush jungle stuff, it was an interesting idea,
Completely.
but very repetitive.
What about the bridge on River Kwai? What about when you go up?
I've seen better looking stuff on the PlayStation 2.
When you go up in Pearl Harbor and you see literally hundreds and hundreds of planes in the skies.
Those are some of the good moments.
Unbelievable. You tell me in what game where you've ever gotten on an elephant and started shooting guys. This game has a two-player co-op as well, which is split screen. It was
the frame rate's
unbelievable.
Brutal on first with single player,
not true.
And then when you split it up, especially in the GameCube.
Not true.
Oh my God, I was horrified.
I didn't play the GameCube version. It's online as well.
And that's a good thing on the PS2. I played it online. It's fun. It's a little bit light in terms of first-person shooters in an online experience. It's definitely no SOCOM 2.
Now, one of the things I didn't like, I thought they could have improved on, was the load times. I thought the load times were extraordinarily, is that a word? Extraordinarily long.
It's right in the Telerico dictionary.
It's right there now.
So what are you going to give
it? I'm giving it a 9.5.
I'm going to average my score at about a 7. I'd say that the GameCube is the worst, Xbox is sort of in second place, and the PS2 is the best version to get because you get the online play.
On the positive side, this game has some of the most amazing gameplay presentation I have ever seen. They've added two-player co-op and online versions of the game, and overall, to me, it was just an amazingly fun experience.
On the negative side, this game features all kinds of technical problems, things like a choppy frame rate, weak enemy AI, and controls that are a little bit too twitchy. May pull some people out of the experience. All right, now we're going to talk about Call of Duty.
Before we do that, I'd like to give you some of my canteen, because that was a very intense review we just
Want me to cool down a little bit?
And we should probably cool down going into our...
I did get a little emotional.
Yeah, going into our next thing. I know you might be parched. It's good.
Yeah, it's all right. What is that?
I peed in it. Call of Duty.
For the PC, thanks for that. From Activision, for me, this is the most incredible World War II experience I've had in a first-person shooter game on any platform. Most of these war-type games, you always get the sense that you've got a squad and you're running beside them, and then you've got a bunch of enemies to take care of. This game, you get the sense that you're immersed with hundreds of other participants. You've got a whole bunch of people on your side and a ton of enemies that are all firing at you. Plus you've got planes dive bombing you. You've got all kinds of artillery shells coming in from every direction.
I'll tell you one of the things that disappointed me though, and this is in all seriousness, is that for a PC game, which more adults are apt to be playing, especially a game like this, I was really disappointed that there wasn't more, and I hate to say this, but blood and guts.
Realistic violence.
Exactly, because there's realistic elements throughout the whole game. They did such an amazing job of making everything so real. But you know how you talked about how the frame rate or whatever took you out of Medal of Honor?
Yeah.
Not having that gore element in there really kind of took me out of this experience as well, because I felt like I was just going around shooting dolls or mannequins.
You get to play the Americans, the British, or the Russians. You have in the single-player campaign, you actually get to experience all three of those different types of viewpoints. And that's, I think, what was so compelling about this game for me, was that it's not just one side of the story here. You actually get to see what the battles were like for America, for British people, and for Soviet soldiers. And it's so different. One of my favorite moments in the game is when you're playing on the Soviet side and you're rushing up this riverbank and you've got Germans sort of entrenched and they're shooting down at you. And you get off of this boat and you find that you're not given a gun. You get bullets, and you're basically left to your own devices, so you can pick up a gun if somebody dies, kind of thing.
I wasn't really sure who my enemies were and who the people on the team. You mentioned that it felt like there's hundreds of people around. Yes, that's true, but to be honest with you, like they're all kind of, they're very confusing. So I was shooting my own guys.
Which is a statement, man. War is madness. You'll have a lot of, basic storm, the enemy type missions, but then you'll also have some things where you have to bust people out of prison camps. My favorite missions in the game, though, are the ones where you have to basically fend off the enemy and wait for your reinforcements to come in, because it is just brutal.
Now, you could hide behind dead cows. I mean, how many times do you see that in a game?
I think this is
big
the first.
old dead cow carcasses.
I think this is a first, and it's
Good
absolutely
stuff.
Loved every second I got to play with
Now,
this
what about
thing.
multiplayer?
Multiplayer is amazing as well. The maps are beautifully set up so that there's lots of sniping positions. A very innovative addition to the multiplayer online is that you have a kill cam, and it'll show the last 5 seconds of what your enemy that killed you got to see. So you can see yourself like an idiot standing in a window wide open like that.
There's a time where you have to kind of take out these tanks and stuff. I had the guys, my troop members, get up on top of the tank. They lifted the thing, started shooting down there, dropped a grenade, and then jumped off the tank.
I'll tell you something, Call of Duty is my favorite PC game of 2003. Seriously, the best World War II video game I've ever played. I love Call of Duty. Definitely pick it up. 10 out of 10.
9.5.
On the positive side, the scale and scope of this game is mesmerizing. In the single-player campaign, you get 3 different viewpoints on the World War II experience. And multiplayer is absolutely stunning as well, with a very innovative kill cam feature.
On the negative side, it's sometimes hard to tell who the enemy is. And for me, I wish there was more realism in the blood factor.
Stick around, we're going to be right back with more WW2 action with secret weapons over Normandy.
See what this is?
What's that?
A World War I helmet. It's called the Tommy helmet.
The Tommy helmet.
Matches your Tommy gun.
Right.
And the Tommy helmet.
Right.
They used to sharpen these up and use them at close combat. They'd hit the guy in the face and then slit their throats with it. What do you think of that?
That's why I've got this flak jacket on.
It's true. Medal of Honor Infiltrator. Now I gotta tell you something, this game knocked me dead. Now Medal of Honor Infiltrator kind of follows the same storyline as Allied Assault and Frontline did last year, where you start by, storming the beachfront at Normandy. I gotta tell you, this game is really, really good. Now it's not a first-person shooter like those other games. It's a completely top-down, view. The thing you'll realize off the top is they have all these amazing video clips, like actual World War II video clips. I'm looking at this thing going, is this my Game Boy? Now they also have kind of a first-person mode where, you know, things are coming out on screen and you have to shoot them. You can't really move in that mode. Now you can also connect this to the new Medal of Honor Rising Sun game, which is out on the GameCube. Now the competition in these war games is pretty stiff around here, so this is definitely the one you're going to want to pick up. Medal of Honor Infiltrator, I'm giving it a 9. Hello?
All right, we're back, and we're going to talk now about Secret Weapons over Normandy. This one's from LucasArts for the PC, but it's also available for the Xbox and PlayStation 2. What'd you think, man?
Well, now here's a game where you shoot planes.
That's correct, yes. It's a World War II game.
Lots of them.
It's like any kind of World War II air combat game that you've played before, but it's meeting Rogue Squadron.
Now they have a wide variety of World War II planes to choose from.
Awesome amount of planes,
like
really
they got
cool.
My favorite, the P-40 Warhawk, but you can also choose the markings and insignias as well. So once you grab like the P-40, you can choose the Flying Tiger insignias if you'd like, or you know, the German markings and stuff. And then you fly like stealth missions as well in a German plane with other German people around you. Now,
that's really cool. I like all that stuff too.
Another great thing that you can do in this game is that you have lots of wingmen and things, and you can send those guys off to do what you want as well. They can cover you, or they can go off and do their own dogfight. So you always feel like there's this massive air battle.
It really felt
going on.
Yeah, absolutely. It really felt like Rogue Squadron or the Starfighter games to me.
Sometimes you're bombing battleships, other times you're doing dogfights, and you really get a good sense of where all your enemies are at.
If you have long stretches of sky to fly through, you can speed up the time and get through there very quickly and get right back into battle.
I love that option.
Very
That's
cool.
probably the best thing in this game.
You can actually slow down time too, so you can see where your enemies are and you can maneuver your plane. It's kind of like taking to the skies in the world of the Matrix.
In the flight simulator world,
yes,
there's a lot of people out there, especially PC people, who are, okay, is my flap set right? Is my landing gear? You got 7,000 buttons and I got to click this, and is that all right? You're not going to get that, okay?
Right.
You know?
Yes. There are also like all the detail in the ground targets and the sort of ground armaments that are out there. Lots of tanks shooting at you and recon cars, and there's little bonus missions that you can go on.
Now there's also a great two-player mode as well, like split screen, where you know you can just dogfight with each other, or you can choose to bring guys with you as your wingmen and fight like teams against each other.
But here's my problem. We're talking about a PC game and also a game for the Xbox and PlayStation 2. We all want to play online, especially on the PC. There might be some kind of patch or something that gets distributed later on down the road, or you know, I know on the Xbox, with Xbox Live, it has that.
Now there's the Xbox Live logos on the box.
Yes, and you can download new planes. Like right away you can download an extra plane and add it to your hangar, which is kind of nice. But when you compare like the Xbox version to Crimson Skies, there's no decision to be made there. You know, people are going to want to play these games with other people.
I'll tell you the other thing that's great is the music. Now the music was done by Michael Giacchino actually, and they used a live orchestra recorded in Hollywood. The one thing though I will say about this game is that it does kind of start to get a little repetitive after a while, because all you're really doing, as we said earlier, is really shooting planes.
You got to be into that.
But an enjoyable experience nonetheless.
I'm going to give Secret Weapons over Normandy 8 out of 10.
I'm giving it an 8.5. On the positive side, the action arcade elements are phenomenal. The music, voiceovers, and sound design are really well done. The stunning visuals and overall production qualities in this game are all top-notch.
On the negative side, the fact that you can't play online is a big detraction from the fun. The gameplay can get a little repetitive if you're not super hyped on this genre. And although Tommy and I loved the simplicity of the game, if you're a flight sim freak, you might not be too happy about that. Now we're going to take a look at a product that is supposed to be the definitive cheat or anti-cheat device for the PlayStation 2. They're called the Clash Pads.
I should have called these the crap pads.
The crap pads.
That's basically what this is. They have a little box which has a lot of switches on it that enables each of the joysticks to control the other person's joysticks at a random spot by pushing a button. Now you're saying to yourself, well, why would anyone want to do that? And I say back to you, I have no idea. Why the heck would anyone want to control? I guess they're supposed to be used for like fighting games. You can take over the other person's character.
Right, and there's
But see, if I'm winning, why would I want to take over the other person's character?
Well, I think it's for people that are losing. I think it's for people that are having a real tough time.
This controller is for losers. This is the message that we're spreading here today. The other problem, aside from the entire concept, is that the actual pads themselves are some of the worst designed and cheap piles we've ever had the displeasure of looking upon. I got an idea.
What's that?
Save your $40 and just pull out your opponent's controller.
Perfect.
And
great. I'd recommend that over these Clash Pads. I definitely will not recommend the Clash Pads.
Nor I.
On the positive side, this is an interesting idea.
On the negative side, the controllers themselves don't really feel that well designed. Now, Vic mentioned this was an interesting idea. I'd like to substitute interesting with bad. And the controller is so clunky and confusing that you don't even know if this stuff's working or not anyway. Not that you would care.
Stick around. After the break, it's 1080 Avalanche versus AMP2.
Buried Treasure is brought to you by EB Games. We take games seriously.
Hey, I've got an old classic here from Electronic Arts. It's called Future Cop L.A.P.D, and it's basically you're in control of this RoboCop type robot. It's a very dark story for the game, but it's actually a lot of fun playing as the cop. Lots of really cool special effects in the game. The explosions look amazing. There's hordes of little bad guys that run at you, and you can blow them all away. There's lots of little special weapons that the big robot guy has. This is also a great game in multiplayer. There's sort of this real-time strategy type element to the multiplayer. It's split-screen two-player. All the action takes place from an overhead perspective, isometric view, and you're looking at your little robot guy as he moves around the mazes of the city. He's got heavy weapons. He's got sort of machine gun ammo. Very fun, very fast, and it looked great on the PlayStation 1. Go check it out. It's called Future Cop L.A.P.D. Hey, welcome to Versus. Today it's all snowboarding games. We've got 1080 Avalanche from Nintendo for the GameCube versus AMP2 from Microsoft for the Xbox.
Well, I thought the graphics overall in AMP2 were done a lot better.
Yes,
overall,
I agree.
They're a lot more realistic. You get the little sparkles in the snow and stuff like that. 1080 seemed to have a little bit more cool effects. The snowdrops melt on the screen.
You've got deer and squirrels running around all over the place. But I agree with you. AMP2 looks much cleaner to me, much more realistic, especially in high resolution. The graphics are phenomenal. The characters look great. The stunts look really cool. AMP2 has much more of a realistic looking flair. But what about the gameplay? That's the most important part of the game, right? Obviously.
Yeah, well, 1080 is more, I think, of the arcadey style game, similar to SSX, although I don't think it's better than SSX.
Well, most of the 1080 experience is about racing, except you're only racing against one other opponent, one computer-controlled opponent. You can do some multiplayer gaming in there as well. But it seems a little bit thin when you compare it to an SSX, which has a lot more effects going on.
Or an AMP2.
And AMP2, it feels more like a realistic,
more realistic.
Yeah, trip to the mountain. You've got different modes, but you know, and you're trying to get media sponsorship and things like that.
More hardcore snowboarders are definitely going to like AMP2 a lot better, I think.
Absolutely, and the thing that really makes AMP2 shine, even though both games have a multiplayer component, the online play of AMP2 on Xbox Live is unbelievable. I love the King of the Hill mode where you actually have to do tricks and stunts and possess sections of a mountain as you go down. There's also a racing mode online. Both games have a bit of a career thing where you can, you know, increase your stats and make your riders better. You can collect boards in both games. Now, what about the audio in both of these games?
Well, because 1080 is more of the arcade style, you also get those cheesy arcade voiceover.
Yes, you do.
What's up, yo?
What's up, yo?
They also have a lot of good ambiance sound effects.
Yes.
like the train passing over and the helicopters and things like that.
The Avalanche effects are beautiful. I mean, they look great and they sound great. They got a really good sense of ambience there for sure.
Now, the music in 1080, they got about 20 licensed songs, including some, bands like Finger 11 and things like that.
Which fits the style of the game.
But
doesn't compare at all to what AMP2 delivers, which is 300 pieces of music that you can snowboard to, and they all are completely different. You've got slower tunes, you've got faster hard rockin' tunes.
You can also load your own soundtrack in for AMP2 as well on the Xbox.
Yeah, if you can't find the music that you like in AMP2, you can actually load in your own soundtrack and listen to that, which is amazing.
Which you could actually load in the soundtrack to 1080,
right,
including Finger 11. So there you go.
They both sound good, but I think AMP2 definitely takes the cake, and it's from 5.1 surround if you've got that set up at home. So overall, which snowboard game do you think brings more value and fun to snowboard gamers out there?
I got to give my nod to AMP2.
Right.
I think SSX is a better game than 1080 in the arcade style.
Right.
And AMP2 is the most realistic, snowboarding game out there.
I got to say I was a bit disappointed with 1080. I don't think they upgraded this game enough. It definitely doesn't compare with SSX3, and AMP2 is my favorite snowboarding game of all time. I think that game is absolute genius, especially on Xbox Live. So what would you give 1080 Avalanche?
I'd give 1080 a 7.
I'd give it a 7 as well. What about AMP2?
AMP2, an 8.
9.5 from me. This is a fantastic game. So in the snowboarding wars, it looks like AMP2 triumphs over 1080 Avalanche.
Most definitely.
Today on the show, we looked at Medal of Honor Rising Sun for the PlayStation 2. This is a great-looking World War II shooter with some technical problems that get in the way. On the PC, we looked at Call of Duty. It has so much action, sometimes it's hard to tell who you're shooting at. Also on the PC, we looked at Secret Weapons over Normandy. This is a very clever arcade action flying game, but it's missing online play. In Versus, we looked at 1080 Avalanche for the GameCube. This is a fun arcade-style snowboard game with some cool environmental effects. We also looked at AMP2 for the Xbox. This is an awesome, much more realistic snowboard game with a great collection of online modes. Tommy and I both thought that AMP2 was a much better game. In hardware, we looked at the Gamester Clash Pads. You can affect your opponent's controllers with these things, but the pads are clumsy, uncomfortable, and the idea is just plain silly. On the Game Boy Advance, Tommy reviewed Medal of Honor Infiltrator. This is a great top-down shooter with some really cool production values. Well, that's the end of the show. We're all done with World War II games. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.
Okay, so Sphincter, the way this game plays is that what it is like a 3D game.
Right. Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, what are you going to give it?
Thank you and good night.